Isn't it great to be alive on a 9:30 Wednesday evening? I'm your boy Berto, host of the 95 North Falcons talk show. I got my guy with me, brotalk, and we are reporting eligible. Let's fucking go. What is going on, Falcon fans? What is going on, Twitter world, YouTube world, man? Thank y'all very much for joining us on this episode 1 of reporting eligible. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. New little startup show myself and Bro Talk are, coming up with to bring you some latest news, anything related to Atlanta Falcons, covering the combine, draft, you name it, we got you covered. But Bro Talk, what is going on, man? It's been a while. Hope all is well with you, but let the folks know what's going on, man.
What's up, Falcon Nation? It feels good to be back. Missed y'all. A lot to look ahead and to talk about. It's never a quiet off season for the Falcons, and before we had to wait about two or 3 weeks before any type of tag notions, free agency talk, or combine. But now with the 18-week season and the Super Bowl getting pushed back a week, it's like there is no break from the NFL. We're right into it, baby.
Yeah, man. Let's go to the chat right quick and say hello to some of the folks that are already tapping in. My guy Dwayne Ruffin from sunny SoCal. What is going on? Ed Mitchell, Jay in the truck. Mom, what are you doing up at 9:30? Well, she's in the building. What's going on, Mom? And he's my guy Tony Wright. What is going on, man? But hey, man, we appreciate everybody that's coming through. I know there's more people creeping in. Derek, what is going on? The NFL today as a whole got some flattering news that the salary cap has inflating. But what does that do in terms for our Atlanta Falcons begs the question. Salary went up from $277.5 million to $281 million, a significant jump from last year where it was at $255 million. So again, what does that do for our Atlanta Falcons that we were already currently in the red, and we'll still be in the red, but we were negative 11 million. So Bro Talk, what does the numbers look like, man? What are the Falcons looking at right now currently?
So right now, over the cap has us just under negative 5 million. So we're still in the red, even with the increase in the cap space. And Sports Central, to give you an idea, you just got to add 7 million. If you guys have seen my video on the breakdown early on before the cap number was announced, just add 7 million to the number. The contracts and the restructures we talk about are all going to be the same. The Falcons have a lot of work, more so Terry Fontenot. It's doable work. It's doing work that makes sense to where we're not in a similar situation that Thomas Dimitroff left this franchise, where Terry Fontenot had to clean up the first 2 years. Obviously, the big one is Kirk Cousins. That contract is haunting us last year. It's haunting us this year. But realistically, guys, once we make it past the 2025 season, it kind of the waves, the wakes, they kind of settle down. The waters smooth out. And yeah, I mean, it's doable. A lot of people want to talk about we have no money. Yes, we don't have any money yet, but we're going to break into, players that we can restructure, we can cut. Explaining June 1st post designations. I learned something not too long ago. I was misinformed, but we're here to educate everyone so we have a full understanding. And maybe some players, some of the fans want cut, but pump the brakes on them. We need them. It's not a great year to just go and cut them because the free agent class in the trenches, let's be honest with you guys, it's not that great.
That draft is filling, though. That draft has a little something to say in regards to this interior line work. But like you were mentioning, man, let's jump into some of the cut candidates, or let's see restructure candidates that, could help us alleviate, the financial status that we have going on with these Atlanta Falcons. As you mentioned, Terry Fontenot has a lot of work cut out for him. We're going to leave Kirk Cousins out of the equation. We're going to just handle that $4 million that's currently, working against the Atlanta Falcons. As you can see, the player breakdowns here, Jesse Bates, Chris Lindstrom. Most importantly, targeting Chris Lindstrom, I think it's a no-brainer to go on and restructure a guy like Chris Lindstrom. Saves the Falcons close to $10 million, which would automatically put us in the green. Yep. And of course, it's not going to be a lot of money to work with. It'll leave us with about $6 million in wiggle room, but there are other candidates. I think myself and brotalk, and I think a lot of what the Falcon fans have said and spoke about, a guy like Jesse Bates is massively outplaying his contract. And what can the Falcons do to reward a guy that's been, the he's been grade A, for this Falcons defense the past 2 years. Let's see what an extension does. An extension grants us almost $11 million, or 10.1 million under the cap, and saves us this money for right now. And for right now is what we need it for draft class, for our own pending free agents, and the free agent class that we're getting ready to, jump into. But Bro Talk, anybody else that you think is a candidate, for either restructuring or signing an extension or just plain old doing away with, brother?
So perfect startup, because if you do those two moves with Lindstrom and just Jesse Bates, if that's what you go to, realistically, guys, when you give extensions, right, you're alleviating cap space, you believe in the player, and restructures, you only want to really restructure players that are going to be here the long term, that you're okay pushing their money down. So Lindstrom obviously is one of those guys. Another guy, I have two more guys that I would restructure personally, just because of their contracts and just the belief the franchise has behind them. It'd be AJ Terrell, who just got in a contract extension. He got, I believe it was a 4-year deal. You push next year's some of his base salary and the roster bonus, and you push that cap hit a couple years down the road. Darnell Mooney's another one. It's $3.9 million of alleviation. Those two alone, you're now creeping up into another $13 million added to cap space. With those 4 moves alone, Berto, we're now sitting at $29 million in cap space. It's still not a lot, but man, it gives the Falcons a lot of breathing room. Let's talk about cuts. And I think the most glaring one, and just for you guys, NFL teams are granted what's called a post June 1st designation, so they can designate a player to be cut June 1st on. What this does, it alleviates more cap space and it spreads out the dead money. The problem being is you don't have access to those funds right away. You have to wait till June 1st. And in the Falcons case, they can't wait. So when you look at a player like David Onyemata, it's either, $10.5 million post June 1st, but then it's like 8.8 pre June 1st cut. I think this is a no-brainer. I think you cut him. He's getting into his 30s. You drafted Rook. You drafted Brandon. You have to have belief in those players. Sure, the defensive line is a little thin when we're heading into this offseason, but we have signed players to future contracts. Someone that I personally like Lakel London. Sure, he's not going to be this all-star guy, but he's a good rotational depth piece that would help alleviate and get David Onyemata out of here. I love what David's done in his 2 years here, but we see the production. It's going downhill. Now, a lot of people are talking about Grady Jarrett.
Oh, man.
Our Grady Jarrett. He's been here through everything. The Super Bowl, Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan. He's played with a whole bunch of them. And now Michael Penix Jr. So the easy move is to cut him. Cut him. $16 million would be alleviated just like that. Now, if you extend him, which I think if we want to do right by Grady, I think that would be the best scenario for him. It's an almost $12 million. And you can give him another 2-year extension, 1-year extension, something to alleviate the cap space and say, Grady, we love you. We want you to stay here, but we need to work something out to help our cap space. And he's a team player. He's made a lot of money. He's made a lot of money being an undersized defensive tackle, an underrated defensive tackle in this league. But the cap number is way too high. I don't think we can ride out with the $60 million. My thought also is if he'd be willing to come back, similar to what the Eagles did with Fletcher Cox towards the end of his career. They cut him, which when I saw that, I was like, the Eagles just cut Fletcher Cox?
Oh, yeah.
But then they brought him back right away on a cheaper deal. It alleviated cap. They gave him his money. I think it was another 1-year deal. They could do the same thing. For a lot of people saying, well, Grady's not the same. Yes, he's not the same. I wouldn't expect him to be this 50-plus snap guy anymore. But now going to a new defensive front, he can play his true role in a 3 technique. He just brings value in the pass rush game. And then those couple TFLs. Another surprise one that I don't see a lot of people talking about is Younghoe Koo.
Oh boy,
as a cut candidate.
As a cut candidate. So let's switch it to cut and post. We'll do
So
post.
we could do post because that's the number that screams off the page, right?
Yep.
Is
4.2.
4.2 million for a kicker, and I'd be okay paying him that. But last year and the year before, he had his ups and downs. He's just been inconsistent. And if he wants to come back on a cheaper deal, by all means, come back.
Absolutely.
But if not, man, it's a no nonsense business league. Raheem said it in his postseason presser. We lost a lot of games because of our kicking game, and it needs to be fixed. And it does. I agree.
I agree 100%, man. And back to the Grady situation. I mean, there is some sort of a youth movement going on in the Atlanta trenches, right? So it does pay major dividends to bring in a guy like bring back a guy like Grady, who also know what Jeff Ulbrich expects out of the players. The schemes may have changed a bit. He has grown by his account as a play caller these past 5 years. So it would be interesting to see how Jeff, if Grady is brought back, how he utilize him. You mentioned the 3 technique. This draft also serves to be one of the better 3 technique styled defensive tackles that are out there. There's a lot of them that we'll probably get at with names and stuff like that. So it's a 50-50. It's very emotional. Do you let a guy like Grady walk and everything that he's meant to the city of Atlanta, what he's meant to the organization, both on and off the field? But then you got to look at, the brighter side, if you want to call it that. We got to stop building these trenches for the future. And he's not one of those guys that are in future plans. Unfortunately, we wish these guys can last forever, but it's not the case. I want to bring up something. I like to get your thought on it because this whole Kirk Cousins situation is, it's a looming black cloud over the Falcons organization. Really, really ways we can get around it, sure. But man, just having the figures over our head is what hurts. I look at a guy like Jake Matthews, like Grady Jarrett, that's been around. Could a move like what's happening with Kirk, could it force the Falcons to make a move that they don't want to in extending a guy like Jake Matthews? 31 years of age, and as I believe it was Trey Sean, dude, and I was laughing my ass off when he called Jake Matthews the Honda Accord of left tackles.
He's just reliable.
He's just reliable. So could you see the Falcons, down that avenue need if be just to open up the cap a little bit more? We see it here. It almost opens up another 11.4, and sure, it might. The tackle scene. If you're picking in the first round, you might have luxury in getting a Will Compton or Banks Jr. out of Texas, but really the talent pool in the offensive tackle market kind of dips after those 2 guys. And I could be wrong, but I don't see where you can get a guy in day 2, maybe day 3, that can come in and impact right away. You're talking more developmental players down the line, and what we need impact is now, especially with Penix now the starter and that blind side on the right side. So there's multitude of things that we can go, but I'm sorry not to go a little longer than I should have, but your thought on that.
So with Jake Matthews, he's got 2 years left on his deal. Sure, you could extend him, but man, he's I would say I'd be more comfortable giving him that extension if he was an elite left tackle still. Okay. He's a good left tackle. He's a serviceable left tackle. But I think I want to write out his contract. Okay. Maybe a restructure if you have to. I don't want to, right? Because he's up there in age, right? A restructure would save another $7 million. But if they don't touch his contract next year, he could be a cap casualty, saving $15 million. Personally, you play it out. You let them write it out. And I think either you sign someone new the following year or you invest in the trenches. Because honestly, I look at the offensive tackles in this draft class as there's not many true offensive tackles. It's a lot of guards playing tackling in college.
Yes.
So that's why I don't think we invest unless it's like a round 7 guy. Maybe you find your Jordan Mailata in the 7th round that you could replace. But these are all that's fine. Let him learn under Jake Matthews under his final 2 years of the contract. I really don't want to touch his contract, but push come to shove, I'd rather restructure than extend him.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody else that's been coming through. Guys, out of your Falcon mind, what is going on, man? John and Mike, man. Hope y'all fellas are doing good. Tony Wright, what's going on? Southside Ricky, Zay in the bag. YASU, what is going on? Al Capone with an interesting question here. Financially, what is the best way to get rid of Kirk Cousins, man? And we spoke about this before we went on air. Little aggressive, but we'll show you what it is. And that's a restructure and then a cut. Can the Falcons do that? Are they that ballsy enough to do it? Remains to be seen. But that 17.4 million is enticing enough to possibly do it. Your thought, bro?
Well, we talked about Kirk, and he's kind of thrown us under the bus 2 times, whether it was intentional or not. A lot of people like to think that it was intentional. First, the tampering. We didn't think we would need this 5th round pick this year, but now it really hurts losing that 5th round pick. And then recently in Super Bowl week, talking about how he was injured and then putting the Falcons in this awkward situation even after the season. But Kirk's contract, with like a lot of these new quarterback contracts, has a full no trade clause. So unless Kirk is willing to deal, which he has his agents, Mike McCartney, who's one of the hardball agents, just like Howie Roseman, or not Howie Roseman, but Drew Rosenhaus. That's who I was thinking of. Those are some of the top agents in the league, and they may play hardball and say, nope, we're just going to sit and you won't be able to trade us. Either you cut us or you don't. And then that would then put the Falcons in a situation like this where, okay, we're going to convert some of your base salary to a bonus. Here you go. Okay, after that, we are terminating your contract. That's kind of a workaround, and I'm 99% sure that the Falcons can do this. Obviously, I want to double check ourselves and make sure that what we're putting out is correct, but this would alleviate 17.4. We would then have more dead cap spread out. But guys, like I said, after this year in 2025, Kirk Cousins' contract really lightens up, and that's how Terry intended it to be front-loaded, because you heard him talk about it. It was a 2-year plan, and then after that, they would assess. So in my opinion, they were getting ready to cut him after this year anyways.
After this year, yeah, very solid point. But that's an excellent question there, like Al Capone, man. Louis Algier, what is going on, brother, man? Appreciate you joining the stream. April Thomas, what's going on? Or Ron Thomas, what's going on? John Brooks, what up, man? Southside Ricky, if I'm Terry, I'm either, let me see, let me bring it up. If I'm Terry, he either lifts the trade clause or he sits on his ass on the bench and cheer on Mike Penix. That's like an expensive ass backup. I doubt it'll get to that.
That's the way I view it. It's like, okay, Kirk, you think you could play? Well, you're not going to play for the Falcons. So either we're not going to cut you, because what sense does that make? Either let us trade you, go find your trade partner, we'll let you do that, or you get to sit and not do anything.
How aggressive do the Falcons have to be in this sense, right? There's a little rumor going around about the Jets possibly being interested in Kirk Cousins. The Jets are rumored to have targeted Kirk Cousins in the beginning. Is there something there? Are the Jets that desperate that they will try and obtain the services of Kirk Cousins, them coming off, already a bad scenario with Aaron Rodgers? Are they that dumb of an organization? Are we hoping for that at least?
Well, it depends. I can't remember who they hired as their offensive coordinator. I think it was someone from the Lions staff. And Kirk's ability, if you want to get a glimpse, look at what Jared Goff does in Detroit. Because most of the time when those guys get hired off staffs, they try and replicate the first year of what they were running, and then they try and mold it as their own. We saw that with Zach Robinson in his first year for the Falcons. So it was a lot of under center, not a lot of shotgun. Kirk doesn't have that ability to bootleg, give you that threat. So I think that's a lot of noise. I don't think Aaron Glenn would want to start his tenure as a head coach, especially with a new GM with him, going from Aaron Rodgers, who they said they're going to part ways with or cut, and then go to Kirk Cousins and then have to eat that contract. It just doesn't make sense to me. What does make sense to me is if the Falcons are able to trade him to like the Cleveland Browns, okay, and we do a pre-June 1st where we eat the contract, that makes it more enticing, right? It makes it more enticing because you could then sell it to where it's like, okay, guys, get them off our plate. We'll take a draft pick or 2, right? will eat the contract. And then after this year, his contract is very easy to get out of. You can cut him and then still save your money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. My concern is when you start talking dead cap, which right here we see at 65, right? And then you start looking at years where we are going to have money. That 65 eats into that 87. So that's, I believe that if I'm not mistaken, that's how dead cap works on a year-to-year basis.
Well, that's a cut. What does it look like pre-trade? Pre-June 1st. Pre-June
Right.
1st. That's cut.
Yeah, that's cut pre-trade 37.5.
So you see how it
Yeah,
almost cuts it in half.
right.
That's why the trade pre-June 1st, and more so before that roster bonus hits.
Yep.
And that's where the hardball is going to come in, because his agent's going to say, we're going to stand pat. We're not going to move. We'll do a trade, but you need to pay us our roster bonus. And
Right.
But that's why everyone's like, just cut Kirk Cousins. Just cut Kirk Cousins. That makes no sense whatsoever for the Falcons organization. And if that happens, you might as well start looking for a new GM, because that would be one of the dumbest things he could do. And what he's looking to do is save his job after the season. That would be one of the dumbest things he can do.
He has to be methodical with what he does with these contracts going forward. Like you mentioned, he's on a very short leash. I'm saying that. But like you said, he essentially will be fighting for his job in essence, man. So I don't know, Terry, man. It's tough. I just feel bad for the guy because he came into Atlanta having to make tough decisions, and he's looking to be on his way out of Atlanta, making yet more tougher decisions. And those tough decisions we can't really afford, because really we need to be competitors, or just be something in the NFC South, man. We let that go by this year. Obviously, no one envisioned this year to fall off the rails the way that it did. But this Falcons, team needs some more talent infused on all three levels of the defense. And these salary cap numbers right now are just working against us, man.
I want to look at Caleb McGarry.
Caleb McGarry.
He's been a topic of discussion for a lot of fans, and a
Sure
lot of
has.
fans just want to cut him, right?
Yeah.
If you look at his cut number, sure, it looks enticing, right? If you look at
wow,
a pre, well, even a pre would be a 14.5.
Yeah, it's not going to change.
So
yeah.
14.5 million, yeah, that's very appealing if you're thinking about it. But then I asked the question, is like, okay, you cut Caleb McGarry, who are you going to replace him with? The market, there's no one there in the market that could block the blind side. I'm not saying Caleb's the best tackle in the league. Mm-hmm. He's played serviceably well. He's done well. He's a great run blocker, right? Mm-hmm. In this outside zone scheme that Zach Robinson and Dwayne Ledford are implementing. Can he improve in pass blocking? Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay. Absolutely. There's very few elite right tackles. The only elite ones are Lane Johnson and Penei Sewell. Spare me on the Penei Sewell.
Sure.
But it doesn't make sense to replace him. What makes sense is giving him an extension. He's only going to be 30 this year. Okay. A 2-year extension. Let him go into 33, 30, or 31, 32. Okay. Then again, just like Jake Matthews, you invest in your tackles. You find a blindside tackle to then replace Caleb McGarry.
There's one guy I'll make an argument for, and that's Ulrich Jackson, the right tackle currently. It will be a free agent in the coming weeks from the Rams. But then you're talking about dumping money into an offensive tackle prospect that's still young, and then these guys are going to get paid the premium based off of age. He per PFF, he is an above average blindside protector. I say blindside because he will be that for Michael Penix if he does come, and a run blocker as well. But like you mentioned, right, allowing Caleb McGarry, who he's been thrust in the fire because of his pass protection, but this guy's a fucking mauler in the run game, and you can see Atlanta's offense where their run game is, where where their bread is buttered is on the right side, man. That Lindstrom McGarry combo in this run game is lethal. I think the Falcons want to continue that continuity there. So I agree. While there's nobody on the roster now ready to replace McGarry, I say we do a little bit good by him and reward him for the mauler that he is. So yeah, sure, maybe an extension does make sense. Like you also mentioned, it opens up the books, and anything that we can get in the green now is just a plus because, hey, there is linebackers that we need. We can talk edge in free agency. The secondary is, by far, right up there with edge and some attention being needed addressing too. So yeah, I love it, man. McGarry ain't worth 10 million a year. I'm sorry. We're not saying that he is either. But in the same token, business sense, you got to start opening up these books. And because of the cap situation that we're in, we're forced now to make some unpopular decisions. Or Terry is, not us. Terry is. To get this Falcons, in the green and get going forward. Grady not worth 12 million either, in my opinion. I think we would both agree that he's not playing to that, stature anymore of being worth 12 million. But again, this is a guy that's still pivotal in the Atlanta locker room. And because of the youth that's in the Falcons trenches, you need a guy like Grady to get these guys going in the right direction on Sundays, man.
So just so you guys know, Caleb McGarry's the 17th highest paid right tackle. He's not even cracking top 10. That's right about the range that he is. He is an average right tackle, okay? And he is paid just like an average right tackle. You have someone like Titus Howard of the Texans that is cracking the top 10.
Top 10.
Jawan Taylor is the third highest paid right tackle. You have guys that are mediocre at best getting paid way more. Okay, Terry did his due diligence and got himself a nice contract for Caleb. He knew the market. Okay,
revisiting the conversation from earlier with Jesse Bates. Are you on board? Giving him a contract extension,
brother.
He's going into his second year of a 4-year deal.
Pay the man. Pay the man. He's been an All-Pro and he's been a Pro Bowler since he get here. Interceptions left and right, peanut punching everything out, creating turnovers, setting the tone. He is that free agent that will go down in Falcons history. That was one of the Michael Turner was one of them. Who's another one? Alex Mack, Mohamed Sanu while he was here. Like all these guys, he is going to fall in that category. It's like, wow, one of the best free agent signings ever. Do not give him even the slightest opportunity to sniff the free agent market.
No. Here's a good question here. Matty Iceberg, what's going on? Thank you for joining the stream. He says, do you think Grady will be willing to restructure? I think the city alone means so much to him. He's playing home. He's playing at home. He's so heavily rooted in Atlanta and with the team, with dad playing there. I think he would, man. I don't think he's one of those guys that's out to chase a ring. And that might sound crazy to say because every player's ultimate goal is to eventually, get a Super Bowl ring. But, you just don't see that side from Grady. He's not vocal about it. He's vocal about other things, but never, about all the other smaller details and whatnot. So yeah, I think so. I think Grady would be willing
I think he'd be willing to. I think he'd be willing to do more because of how much the team means to him and how much the city means to him. I mean, he's been here for forever, man. Him and Jake are the last two from the 2016 team.
Shit, man.
It's the last two. And
the last two,
he's been through a lot, and the city's meant a lot. And I think him and Arthur Blank have a really good relationship. So I think he'd be willing to do what it takes to help this team.
Are we going to jettison David Onyemata?
Do what now?
Are we getting rid of him?
Oh yeah, no. I think in the next couple of weeks we'll see him cut.
Begs the question now, because we did talk a little bit about this interior guys and possible day 2, day 3 guys that are gems, and one thing this Falcons organization has done in the past has been able to go and nab guys in the 4th, 5th round, Grady Jarrett, for example, and just get good, get good production out of those guys in the rounds that they were drafted. Anybody in this draft really that sticks out to you as a David Onyemata replacement? We're bringing back Grady. If all plays out right, we're gonna have him back. We traded up to take Rook last year out of Clemson. We saw some inspiring play from him. I'm sure that we'll see the full entree this year. Brandon Dorlus was a healthy scratch for 11 weeks.
See Brandon Dorlus a lot more this year.
I pray to God that we do.
But
we still need to bring somebody else in because Taquan Graham is also not a guarantee to come back. Eddie Goldman's probably going to be on his way out. Contavia Street maybe might be back, but he's what really is he going to etch out in this defensive core? Probably not much. Be rotational at best. So, any guys stick out to you in the draft this year?
Yeah, so some late guys that you could find maybe in the 5th round, maybe in the 7th round if they somehow fall. A guy, CJ West out of Indiana, was at the Shrine Bowl, was killing it in 101, 6'2, 317, can play the one, predominantly a 3 technique, but we're going to see a lot more 3 techniques out of this front, I believe. A lot more even fronts, maybe odd fronts. I think we're going to see more than just the over and under front. So he's someone that I'd keep an eye on. Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. Solid guy. Just same thing, killing it at the Shrine Bowl, made himself some money there. Thor Griffith out of Louisville. There's plenty of talent to where if you wanted to sit back, you could. But I don't think the Falcons will. I think defensive tackle, besides edge, I think they're gonna double, maybe triple dip into the line again. I don't be surprised if the only guy I'm willing to take in the 1st round, honestly, if he's there at 15, is Malachi Starks.
Oh,
if he's there,
that's bringing smiles to everyone in Georgia right now.
Hear me out, guys, because everyone's like, "Oh, Malachi, we don't need a safety. We don't need a safety." Look, watching Malachi and what he does. He can play the nickel with DeMarco Helms coming back, playing the strong safety. Look, you have 3 safeties on the field. Malachi Starks can play that nickel for you, and he plays it very well, has a very sound feel for zone. I think we're going to play a lot more man. The nickel has become such an important position in the NFL. He's not afraid to come up and tackle. He's not just a throw his body at you. I've watched him break down, use his shoulder and drive through his hips, his legs to make the tackle. The kid, that's why I'm surprised with all these like experts having him fall, like what's his name, Daniel Jeremiah, having him fall all the way to the Eagles. That would be the worst thing possible for the league, for Malachi Starks to fall to the Eagles. Kenneth Grant, yes, Tyree. Kenneth Grant would be another one I'd be willing to in the 1st round if we traded back. If there are some look, Mike Green is my draft crush.
Got it.
Mike Green is my draft crush. Okay. If he's not there, if he goes top 10, then I'm looking at someone like James Pierce Jr. I'm looking at Mykel Williams. Okay. Because I think Mykel Williams would be a disruptor in the run game right away. And he can develop into a sound pass rusher. This class is just littered with talent in the trenches. It is a very, I think we're going to see a lot of names that we're going to be like, what? They're drafting them in the 1st round because there's not a lot of true 1st round grades. The experts say there's really only about 10 true 1st round graded players this year. So you're going to see a lot of fluctuation in the back half of the 1st round. That's why a lot of things like trading back make sense, because you could still get a very good player trading back anywhere from 5 to 7 slots. You and me, Berto, have talked about the Broncos being a trade candidate. Also, the Chargers. So many things can happen. It's just, this is the make or break year for Terry Fontenot as the GM. If he can make it happen, he survives. If not, we'll be looking for a new GM, new head coach. I don't know if we could go that far, but you generally want to hire them together. So we'll see.
Yeah, with such a bad year to have limited picks with such a loaded interior class, right? It just sucks. You gave out some gems. Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee is a kid, 6'3", 4 sacks last year, 315 pounds. Very stout, and that's exactly what I feel like this Falcons core needs to be. It's more stoutness in the middle of this defense. Too often than not, last year we were gashed in the run game, and also, having stout guys in the middle, a la like what Jalen Carter and Milton Williams did in the Super Bowl. It allow guys like who in this chat knows who Jalen Hunk is out of Christian University from last year. We all know who Nolan Smith was out of Georgia, but those guys were able to just put those tackles on skates because the presence in the middle was that dominant. Falcons, there's a blueprint there that you can follow. Omar Norman Lott is a guy for me. I know you feel some sort of way about Deion Walker, but I gotta go there because I think this guy is gonna make up for He's gonna make up a lot in pro days and at combine if he is an invitee. We don't know the full list of who's going and who's not. But Deion Walker is another intriguing guy. As far as draft crushes, and Mike Green is, yes, dude, he's amazing. There's a guy out of Central Arkansas, David Walker. Also,
Ooh.
listen, for all the hype of Mike Green, he finished his collegiate career with 22 sacks. David Walker's ended with 30. He posted 12 in 2022, 2023, 7.5. Last year, 10.5. 6'2", 260 pounds. I just think he fits what Albrecht would want to do on defense. Go ahead, buddy.
So with David Walker, when I saw the 6'2", I was like, okay, a little undersized edge guy. You know, he measured barely over 6 foot at the Senior Bowl, right?
Elvis Doomerville me.
So
Brandon Graham me.
So Brandon Graham was a comp that I saw. I also saw Melvin Ingram as a comp.
Oh shit. Yeah.
He's really strong and can win you the leverage battle because he's not as tall as some of these other guys. And he's got good arm length. He's got a good weight on him. I like him. I do. Watching tape from him. Sure, everyone's like, oh, he went to a smaller school. I mean, it happens. We see these guys come out of smaller schools and make things happen. Another guy that we don't really talk about, that's kind of like I'm really liking, especially now that I'm looking at his size, Shamar Turner out of A&M.
Only problem with him is his character issue. I read up on it. He's driving reckless, and he had some off-field issues. But, dude, this is a twitchy, violent kid.
He has that attitude. 6'4", 300 pounds, can play the 1, can play the 3. You could even see him play the 5. The off-field issues, of course, are always taken into account with Terry Fontenot. But he brings that mentality that this defense hasn't had in a long time, where he's going to look at you and be like, what's up? You're not as good as me, and I'm going to let you know all game that I'm going to be the one beating you up. He's a Dallas grown kid. Shout out to those Dallas high school kids out of DeSoto and Duncanville. He is homegrown in Texas. He knows what winning is like, and he does not take losing lightly. That's a guy that you can immediately impact. And if you bring back Grady, it's kind of like, hey, come here.
Yes.
Let me show you how to be a professional. Let me show you how to be professional. You know, that's why you bring someone like Grady Jarrett back.
Absolutely. Our guy, Chris Tipmore.
What's up, Chris?
A1 Forever Sports. Folks, make sure you go tap into A1 Forever Sports on YouTube. And the newest member of Atlanta Digest, man. Chris is pumping out content on a daily. He's almost like Smitty almost, man. Just pumping content out and doing interviews. I love it, man. Love the growth. Chris, what's going on, brother? But yeah, man, there's a lot of intriguing prospects, man. And, you know, a lot of them, like you mentioned, didn't, you know, the first round grades that were handed out weren't a lot. I think you mentioned 10 of them, but there is value within this draft from top to bottom. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this draft. The only thing is, like I mentioned, it just sucks that we're limited in the trade pool. And I believe we had a question, man. You know, do you see the Falcons draft, you know, moving down from 15 to, like we mentioned, the Broncos area at, I believe, 20, or the Chargers at 22? How far back do you see the Atlanta Falcons potentially going if the deal is right?
If the deal is right, I mean, we'll go all the way back into the 30s if we want to. If there's someone like the Bills or the Lions or the Ravens, one of those guys that really that's willing to give us a slew of picks, fall back, man. There will be defensive tackles there. There will be edge guys like Princely Umanyalan that falls. Donovan, I can't pronounce his last name, out of Boston College. JTT out of Ohio State. Even Jack Sawyer is now falling into the second round. Like, there are going to be players. Kyle Kennard. Yes. Yes. This is like, if there is someone wants to just haul. And I know a lot of fans, even if Malachi Starks is there, if someone's willing to offer me their first, their second, and then like a fourth and a fifth, it's hard to pass up on, because you have how many players you can get that could be key rotational guys and maybe huge impact players, like those gems that you don't know in the draft class, you know?
Yeah. Shout out to you, Tyreek, man. This is exactly how I had the draft shaping out. defensive tackle, edge, linebacker, defensive back. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're nuts, you're crazy. How do you miss out on the obvious need, which is edge?" Yeah, defensive tackle is there too, and especially if
Quick
we have to make those moves, then what are we left with? So that
quickest way to
jump to
the
the top.
quarterback. Quickest way to the quarterback is in their face. The
Yep.
defensive tackle getting right up to him. Chris
Yep.
Jones. If I swear, if Chris Jones was in this draft class, Falcon fans would be so upset that we drafted him. But then
Yeah.
we'll look at the impact that he has. That's the type of player that you could potentially get. Now, granted, Chris Jones was a second rounder, but now hindsight's 2020 is like that's the kind of guy you could get. Yes, you want an edge rusher. Yes, you want that. But ultimately, like Berto said earlier, Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, Jordan Davis in the Super Bowl
Oof.
ate up the interior to allow the edge rushers to get those one-on-ones. And Arnold Ebiketie is trending up. You
Yes.
have other guys. You could send Caden Ellis on a simulated blitz. Like you could sign I call them great value edge rushers in this free agency class that can do the same thing. Michael Hoyt,
Oh,
what's his name? Nelson, what's his name? I can't remember his name. From the Buccaneers, I liked what I
Anthony?
saw. Anthony Nelson, yes, from the Buccaneers, won't
Mhm.
cost you a lot. Even the guy that pretty much derailed our entire season, Peyton Turner from NOLA, could come
Mhm.
this way. Those type of guys won't cost you a lot and can get you pressure.
Big time pressure. Got a quick question. If my guy Tony Wright, Alberto, your thoughts on us bringing back unrestricted free agent Calais Campbell back again? From what I'm hearing, he's not hanging it up, and he was productive last year in Miami too. Yeah, I'm on the bandwagon that we should have never got rid of him, but I understand why we got rid of him.
We
Go
didn't
ahead.
get rid of him. We didn't
Well,
get rid of him.
yeah, no, he was on
He
a 1
he
year.
he chose
Yeah, he
Miami's
chose
contract
Miami
over ours.
over
I'm just
Atlantis.
saying,
That's true.
we
No, no, you got
offered
a
him
point.
money. We
Yeah,
offered him a contract, but he
yeah,
said, "Nah, I'm gonna go to Florida."
yeah.
I'm
I
just
for
saying.
No, no, and very valid. But for me, I stay away from Calais because I don't want him coming back and potentially taking snaps from Zach Harrison or anything like that. I need that. I need that. I need Zach Harrison. To I need a full arsenal from Zach Harrison this year, which I think he could be Falcons breakout player in this scheme with Jeff Ulbrich. We go back to that more of a traditional bigger defensive end. We drafted Zach Harrison as an edge, so he kind of goes back into that fit of things. So hopefully, we see the best of Zach Harrison under Jeff Ulbrich. There's another name I wanted to bring up, man, and put folks on, and it's Elijah Ponder, edge guy out of Cal Poly Tech. I mentioned the bigger edge guys. This kid's 6'4", 260 pounds. The kid can get after it. 23 and a half sacks. Can he drop back in coverage? Yes, he has an INT. He has, a pass breakup. But I don't think we're seeing that in this scheme. Hopefully not with all the man-to-man that we're running and the nickel assignments that are going to be had. I don't think so. But that's another name to look out for from Cal Polytech. Elijah Ponder, man. That's another kid there,
Yeah, he's a redshirt senior, so he's got a lot of experience. So
man.
he's not a guy that potentially he's at his peak, so you know what you kind of have.
Yeah.
And if it was like a late round gem, he could be seeing the field a lot. I just don't want to see another like. My thing is like you drafted Zion Logue, but then you let him get poached. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like just a draft. Have a reason why. I'm sure they did, right? I don't want to think that this front office didn't have a reason, but then maybe it was because we were so loaded in the defensive tackle room.
Yep.
But now this year, we're not.
We're not.
We're not. We have so many free agents this year that this is a position of need in addition to edge rusher. It's it's a good year to need those positions. It's a bad year. Berto, keep saying it. I'm going to say it again. It's a bad year not to have a lot of picks. You have the Patriots, I think, that have 9 draft picks.
Yeah.
The Chargers have 10 plus. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of picks. So again, the Chargers would be a prime candidate to trade back to because they have so many draft picks that they'd be okay letting some of those go.
Yeah. Man, we've been on for 45 minutes. Anything else you want to add on? I'm going to throw out one last question before we wrap it up. And I haven't seen until just now. Are we trading Kyle Pitts in the coming weeks? Is that a possibility?
Is it a possibility? Of course. Of course it is. Do I think they should? Yes. With rumors circulating that the Chiefs are trying to get a contingency plan for Travis Kelce if he retires. Maybe Kyle Pitts is that guy. Last year, he's $7 million cheaper than Kelce would be against the cap. It helps their cap situation. They could I'm not trading him less than a third-round pick, in my opinion. He's got youth. He's got size. He's got the ability. Do I think they trade him? Not if you're going to lowball them, no.
Yeah, probably not.
Not if you're offering a 6th-round pick. I think Terry's going to hang up the phone and say, try again.
Yeah. I had this conversation with you. I've had this conversation with Simo, another great Falcon content creator as well. Yeah, I don't think the Falcons trade Pitts. And while it makes sense, obviously it alleviates the books. We recoup that 10.5. We get him out of the division. Many things. I think there's something with Pitts that the Falcons are trying to uncover and unlock. Is it the Michael Penix situation? Is that coming to light? Yeah, I think that's one of the driving force behind it. But I think the other thing is that article that you and I spoke about and reading on it, and I invite folks to also look it up. It's from a July 15th interview with Zach Robinson per NFL.com. And in that article, Zach Robinson was asked, how do you plan on utilizing Kyle Pitts? And he stopped short of just obviously gushing over the talent, but also mentioning Kyle Pitts is also learning how to be a wide receiver, also playing his natural position, the tight end position. So I know that folks clamored and they talked about how lazy he looks and, how the effort wasn't there, lazy ass routes and stuff like that. I think Kyle was just a victim of not understanding the playbook whatsoever in his first year with Zach. And I think that it was too much on his plate for him to be the best that he possibly can, because I know the pressure is there, him being the fourth overall pick. That's high regard. I think he was just victim of doing too much, trying to learn too much, and not understanding what the hell was needed from him in this year, man. And he was still able to put up 600 plus yards.
So you got my brain thinking. And to answer Jay's question, no, don't trade Tyler Algier and draft Cam Scatterbo. No,
not Scatterbo.
No. I mean, this draft class is loaded with running back talent. We don't need one. If we drafted Jace McClellan last year, we could have waited till this year. But hey, neither here nor there. This is going to be a crazy scenario, okay? If Kyle Pitts is if he stays, which I'm leaning towards that, right? Do I think they should trade him? Yes, but I think they're going to keep him because they see the potential, right? Raheem doesn't want to give up on him, neither does Terry. I think he kicks out to wide receiver. Stay with me now. Ray McLeod becomes a cap casualty, $4.5 million, okay? You drafted Jace McClellan. There's your returner. Okay, you solve all those problems. You then can view Kyle Pitts as only a $6 million cap hit, that he's a outside threat to inside threat, right? You get a smaller nickel matched up on him. That's a good mismatch, right? Well, you got size. Yeah. Penix can, as long as he can be on the same page as Penix, the potential's there. He could slide in the 12 personnel. What did Ray McLeod do a lot when we were in 8-man, 9-man protection? He would come in on the edge to block.
To block.
Why not have Kyle Pitts do that?
Blocks as it is now.
Kyle Pitts motion in and then block. Oh, it's like, is Pitts blocking this play? Or is he going to run a route? That becomes more of a mind game for linebackers and safeties and nickels than I like what Ray did last year, but $4.5 million is $4.5 million. And if you believe it's more than you do Ray, you have players that can play returner, right? You drafted Casey Washington, right? Who built a little bit of a relationship with Penix because they were taking the second team reps. So you have a little bit more flexibility there. And then you stick Charlie Warner as your starting tight end, who is obviously the much better run blocker.
Right on. Right on. I like it. I'll warm up to it. I mean,
You got to get creative with that.
You got to get creative. And I mean, honestly, folks, man, do you expect the same amount of production out of Ray this next year? I think Ray, he just had a flash in the pan season for me. I'm sorry. You know, he was just utilized better with Zach Robbins, but can he mimic that year two under this offense? I just don't think so, because I really feel like this offense is going to evolve in year two under Zach. And I don't know how he fits in. I think they just got the production out of him, which was a surprise. Point blank period. That's it. This is a guy that didn't put up numbers like this before he was in Atlanta. Come on, get the fuck out of here. So
he was a return guy.
He was a return guy.
And that's what I thought he would slide into. But then I'm like, $4.5 million for a returner is just way too much. And that's where Chase McClellan, who's got return experience, you know, what better person to have with the ball than a running back that could break some tackles, right? He can do your kick returning. He can do your punt returning. Boom. You have 3 running backs on the roster if, in the event, knock on wood, right, one of our 2 starting running backs get hurt.
True. And we don't need any of that. No, thank you. No, thank you, man. Yeah. Chris says Ray popped for us. Glad to see it. Yeah, he did pop, man. He did pop.
Sorry about you.
Yeah,
we got positions to fill and needs to show. I'm just gonna show my thing. Just so y'all know, I didn't eat out of courtesy because it gets kind of loud, but this is a Asian inspired salad that my wife made.
Jeez, the cook. She be cooking, man. That's awesome, man.
This is why I'll never be skinny.
As the banner states, man, please subscribe to Dirty Bird Central. My guy is at 965 faithful subscribers. Man, we need to get him to that 1,000 bid. He's getting there, and I'm going to be so happy to know that when that happens, it should happen very soon. So please go and subscribe to Dirty Bird Central. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, 95 North Falcons Talk Show, I would kindly ask you to do the same thing. Earlier tonight, I was on Bleacher Report talking about these interior defensive linemen. That show is up for viewing there. And I had a poll question within: do the Falcons draft Walter Nolan at 15 if he is available? To some people, that may be a no-brainer. For others, it may not. But that's why it's there, for you guys to enjoy and discuss and argue and do what you want. But Walter Nolan, for me, is that guy. Mason Graham is the top tier. But Walter Nolan has something to say too, man. That kid can move. That kid can freaking move, man. But that's going to conclude episode 1 of Reporting Eligible, man. So, Bro Talk, let them know where they can find you, and we'll be on our way out, man.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for episode 1. Just like Berto said, Dirty Bird Central on YouTube and also on TikTok. TikTok is daily content, not just Falcons, but if you want to see what's going on in the NFL, I talk about a lot about there. YouTube is more Falcons Central, but we have started branching off to other things NFL. And then on Twitter, it's at brotalk, at BK2 but you know me as brotalk. I'm loved and hated in the community, but that's okay. It comes with it. I have my arms open for anyone that wants to talk Falcons football. But yeah, thanks guys for being here.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. Appreciate everybody that came out and supported tonight. Episode 1 in the books. I'm your boy Berto, host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. You can also find me on Bleacher Report and the newly revamped Bleacher Report app. Got to go under the Falcons. That's where you'll see this ugly mug just talking about our beloved Falcons. But until then, we'll have some shows lined up for you in the very, very near future. Combine is just right around the corner. We're planning on, putting together a list of prospects the Falcons could have their eyes on for the Combine. Pro Days also coming up soon. And in March, March 15th, that ever so important date, free agency begins. We hope to have all of that covered for you and more. So until the next episode, we thank you very much. We'll give you your Wednesday evening back. But until then, peace.